خب درود دارم خدمت شما همیهنان یاران پراجکت لون در هر جای این جهان که هستید. اکنون در 19 مرداد ماه 2584 پادشاهی هستیم، ساعت 23 همونطور که قول داده بودیم مثل تایم همه لایف های دیگر در خدمت شما هستیم. امشب مصاحبه بنده با خانم کاترین پرس شکدم رو خواهید دید. الهه جاسوسی من بهشون میگم. قبل از اون چند نکته بهتون بگم در مورد این مصاحبه، در مورد اهمیت اون و اینکه خب به هر حال نکات خیلی جالبی داره. اول اینکه همین الان بیبی نتانیاهو گفتن که یه خبرایی از گویا از حمله جمهوری اسلامی میاد. ما خواستیم این برنامه زمانی آنلاین بشه، زمانی عرضم بزرگتون برای شما پخش بشه که بهترین زمان، نوع ضبطش، نحوه ضبطش، نحوه اجراش، زمان اجراش، خیلی به این تایم بندی ها دقت بکنید. یادتون باشه که اسرائیل در ماه توت فرنگی حمله کرد. ماه توت فرنگی دیشب بود، پس از اون حمله کرد. ماه توت فرنگی هم گذشته دوباره و پرزیدنت ترامپ و آقای پوتین هم پس از 40 با هم دیدار میکنن. متاسفانه امروز در همون سیر دو جوان در هر استان، پس از مهدی عبایی و علیرضا کرباسی و دو جوان دیگر در ایلام و امروز دو جوان دیگر هم داریم در لرستان، ایمان بقایی و امیر حسین رضایی. انقدر تعداد بچه‌ها زیاده آدم بعضیشون رو یادشون میره. پوزش میخوام. وانگهی امروز در مصاحبه با خانم کاترین شکدم، مصاحبه بسیار جالبی است. قبل از اونم بگم که یک انفجاری یک کارخانه کولر در کربلا، گفتن انفجاری که این گونه نیست، احتمالاً به عمد، شاید نمیدونم داستان یک کولر 600 700 نفر از همین اونجا بستری هستن، نمیدونم حالا این گونه بوده. بذارید بهتون بگم وزارت بهداشت عراق اعلام کرد که بیش از 600 نفر در کربلا دچار خفگی ناشی از گاز کلور شدن. تعداد کشته هم داشته حتما. متاسفانه زائران کربلا در عراق پس از استنشاق کلور ناشی از نشتی در یک ایستگاه تصفیه آب با مشکلات تنفسی روبرو شدن. خب امروز صحبت خواهیم کرد با خانم کاترین شکدم، صحبت هایی که در مورد چی هست، بیسیک هست و در موردش صحبت شده. این مصاحبه صورت گرفته و من گفتم به صورت لایو واسهتون بذارم و ایشون هم طبعا و 100% دارن این برنامه رو میبینن. بیننده های جالبی داریم امشب. نتانیاهو مردم غزه با حماس میجنگن و این رو از ابتدای جنگ ندیده بودیم. ساعتی قبل تماس بیبی و ترامپ رو داریم. مصاحبه کاترین هم که گفتم، در مورد اهمیت کینگ گفتیم، در مورد پادشاهی ایران گفتیم، در مورد مجتبی خامنه‌ای نکات جالبی گفتیم، در مورد قاچاق کودک و عضو و اینها که برای اولین بار داره گفته میشه در مورد صحبت شده. خیلی نکات جالبی است. متاسفانه جنایات وحشیانه رژیم رو در منطقه رو داریم میگیم. افشاگری‌های خانم کاترین شکدم واقعا افشاگری جالبی است. خیلی تلخه ولی جالب از دیدگاه اینکه دفعه اول خیلیاش داره اینجا گفته میشه. منم خیلی سعی کردم که خوب باشه. این برنامه رو گفتم پیش درآمد بهتون بگم تا بریم سراغ برنامه. و پوزش به خاطر اینکه اگه یه جاهایی یکی دو تا مثلا یه جا پهلوی شده پالوی در زیرنویس، سپاس از آرتین که خیلی کمکم کردیشون. زیرنویس 1 ساعت و حدود 20 دقیقه اینها زیرنویسش خیلی اذیت میکنه، یعنی دیگه واقعا اونو ادیت کردن خیلی بحثه. بعد سیو میکنی زیرنویس میفته رو زیرنویس، خیلی عجیبه. به هر حال در مورد زنگزورم که بعد امریکا با ایران همسایه شد، متاسفانه یاد محمود افغان افتادیم که اومد رسید به دروازه های شهر و سلطان حسین میگفت که این چی میگن، بیاید آش بخورید. جمهوری اسلامی همونه. بریم سراغ مصاحبه. ششتانگ حواستون رو به این مصاحبه جذب بکنید. نکات ریز بسیار مهمی داره. این مصاحبه برای افرادی است که دقیق به سیاست نگاه میکنن. این مصاحبه برای کسانی است که خیلی سوالاشون جواب داده نشده. در مورد زمان حمله گفته شده، در مورد اینکه چگونه حمله خواهد شد، در مورد موساد گفته شده، مثلا کارهایی که موساد کرده، در مورد کلاسفیدها گفتیم، در مورد تازه امروز اومد بیرون که بله جاهای دیگه گفتن که بله گردانهایی در ایران بسا ایرانی بودن، گروههایی و گروهانهای 7 تا 14 نفری یا 14 تا 7 نفره بودن که کمک میکردن. مرحله دوم جنگ به زودی در حال آغاز شدن است. تریگرهاشو میبینیم. زمان نشر این برنامه بچه‌ها دقت بکنید، زمان نشر این برنامه اکنون هست. چرا اکنون؟ ضبطش هم که چند ساعت پیش در نگذشته دیگه، حالا همین الان ها بوده. پاینده باد. با هم میبینیم برنامه رو، بعدم باش کنار شما میبینم فول اسکرین. ششتانگ حواستون رو جمع بکنید. فرد باهوشی هستیشون. منم تمام سعی کردم که تا میتونم از ایشون حرف بکشم، اما نه اینکه بیام بله ما بعدم زیر زبون بکشیم، نه. نکات بسیار بسیار مهمی گفته شده. شما رو توجهتون رو جلب میکنم به این مصاحبه. دوباره دارم میگم دقیق ببینید، زیرنویس‌ها رو بخونید. نکات خیلی زیاد است، از سلیمانی و زینب سلیمانی و قاچاق و فلان و خیلی چیزا گفته شده. بعد خاطرات ایشون داخل رژیم، چه کسانی راحت نفوذ در مورد طالب زاده، در مورد اون هرم جمهوری اسلامی، اینا رو میگم که وارم اپ بکنم ذهنتون آماده باشه. بریم ببینیم برنامه رو و در خدمت شما. خب این هم از مصاحبه بنده با خانم کاترین شکدم. بریم ببینیم.
Hello everyone to our watchers and viewers all around the world. This is Leon from Team Project Leon. We are having a very, very special episode. This is our first guest in last 5 years. We are hosting Miss Katarin Shekdam, that almost everybody knows her. And I'm so happy. First of all, I'm going to subject my appreciations that you have invited our invitation. And first of all, go ahead. You want to talk to our to viewers? Go ahead.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me. I think you messaged me about a couple of weeks ago, and I thought your invitation was one of the nicest I have received, I have to say. So it's a privilege to be here, and I hope I can answer your questions. Maybe not all of them, but I'll answer as much as I can.
I understand. Thank you for invitation. We believe, and let's start like this. The Iranian people, after 7th October, that massacre, were the first, or we're going to say not only the biggest supporters of Israel. The first scene that was viral, that was in the stadium in Iran, that when couple of zombies, we call them, brought the Palestinian flag to stadium. Almost 50,000 people from different kind of thoughts, from different kind of jobs, different kind of family, shouted, chanted, shove the Palestinian flag up into your beep. That was, even Jared Kushner talked about it in his interview. That was the start. And we see so many protests around the world that the Iranian people they tried their best to stand beside the Israel. This kind of relationship is no more biblical, as our king says, and is more, I think, something, it goes to our DNA. Because look, I'm coming from a city of Hamadan, city of Eastern Mandachai. I live there. I've been with Jewish people, and this, this contact, this kind of very, 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 very deep, mutual contact. It's been very, very great. While 47 years of spewing propaganda by regime, they created the word Zionist, not the Zionist, Zionist. They spew the propaganda from childhood in school, and the devil, the big devil, and like this, But I'm so happy to address here that the Iranian nation always showed the support for the Israeli, and what has happened in 7th October, it broke my heart. And now they see, now they think, if some side had got more kills or had more victims, it means they are the right side. That's wrong. So go ahead, talk about yourself. Where did you start? Let's talk.
Where do you want to know? Where do you want me to start? Where do you want me to start?
Talk about yourself.
Okay, so before I do that, I want to address what you just talked about October 7th and how Iranian people came to support us, not just Israelis, but Jews. And I have to say, one of my very best friends is actually Iranian, Lily. You might know her. She's a powerhouse in the UK, and she's been forefront and center fighting for the Crown Prince Reza Shah, fighting for Iranians and Iran, on to restore the monarchy. But not just that, she's working to restore the dignity of the Iranian people. And she is one of the people that has stood by my side, no matter what, throughout this ordeal that we have lived through since October 7th. And I think it speaks very loudly to the quality of Iranian people. And for that, I will be forever grateful. And to go back to your point about the ties that unite us, look, no regime, no evil, no maniacal government could come between our people. We have a history that goes to the very beginning of history. And I was actually talking about it in a podcast where I was saying that what Iran gave us back is literally, by allowing and freeing our people and allowing us to go back to Jerusalem to build back the temple, was not just a religious site or even an identity. It was the very foundation, the epicenter and the center of gravity of our very soul and who we are as a people. And so for that, I don't think that a thank you would cut it. And so it has been the honor of my life to be standing with you against this abominable regime. And I pray to God, and I know he's listening, that soon, very, very soon, very, very soon, the Shah will raise that flag in Tehran, and the mullahs will be gone, and there will be a memory, a bad memory, and I hope a memory that will stay in people's mind, to ward them off the lies and the propaganda of certain entities, and warn them about what happens when young people are left to decide the fate of a nation. Because unfortunately, young people may be brilliant and great, and they have a future ahead of them, and they are the future of any nation. They also lack the foresight that comes with years and years of practice in government and understanding politics and history. And sometimes young people need to, leave their parents to make the right decisions. And unfortunately, they made a mistake, and it was calculated that way. It was engineered that way. And it's a terrible fate that you have suffered. I hope that what happened to you will be a cautionary tale for the rest of the world. That's what I have to say. I really hope so, because I feel that the West is going that way. I feel that the model of the revolution has been exported to here in the West. And you can see it, young people in Colombia, King's College in the UK, and other places across the world in Western capitals are coming out in drove, doing exactly what young people back in Iran in 1979 were doing, calling for terrorists to come and take charge. It's a catastrophe, and I think that you, better than most, know exactly what happens when you let the crazy people run the show. And we all have suffered very much, my people, your people, together. So let's get rid of them. Let's bring back the Shah, and let's make a future that belongs to us.
So thank you very much. As I was observing your interviews, I'm going to ask you questions as you can reply them, and if you want, I try to be cautious. As I know, first of all, let's go to Iran. Let's go to your long trip. Let's go. Let me tell you this: how much you got? How much when you started this? When was the time that you said, "Okay, I can do this job"? Put us into the circle. What happened? As much as you can.
Oh, what happened? I was in Yemen. So, if I could put
which year was that in Yemen?
It was around 2011 when I really decided that that's it. Because by then, I was living in Yemen at the time with my ex-husband now. And I saw the years prior to the Arab Spring, I saw how the Islamic Republic was very slowly and gradually weaving its web in Yemen and indoctrinating people. It was very slow. And the way it started is that, as you may know,
soft cool, yeah, I would look at soft
they're doing, yes, they have this very soft kind of insidious way of doing things. And the way that they did this in Yemen was quite clever. So they used Yemen's religious makeup. And Yemen has a majority up in the north of Zaydi Muslim. Mm-hmm. Zaydi Muslim belong to, that's what the regime has sold the rest of the world. It's that they are a branch of Shia Islam. They're actually not. They're very close to Sunni Islam. It's a matter of jurisprudence, and it's such a tiny detail that, quite frankly, you couldn't tell whether they're Sunni or whatever else, because they did not that they did not believe in Imam Hussein or whatever, but they did not abide by that school of thought, and they didn't feel it was centered to their faith. But of course, they recognized the grandchildren of the Prophet and all the rest of this, and they knew the history. They were Muslim after all, and Islam was kind of set up not too far from Yemen. Saudi Arabia is not that far at all, and the Yemenis were some of the first people to actually convert to Islam. But so what the Islamic Republic decided to do is to use the religious history of Yemen, at least in the north, and the fact that President Ali Abdullah Saleh, the former president of Yemen, was from that Zaydi faith, to try to enroll them into the little scheme. It didn't work, because Ali Abdullah Saleh was just like, well, look, listen, we're not, even though Yemen is a, of course, majority Muslim country, it's a very traditional country, they were not into radicalism. And the president's family was actually quite secular. I remember that his nephew, Yahya Saleh, who was the commander-in-chief of the Central Forces, and whom I know very well, was actually one of the greatest feminists that Yemen has had, in that he was the first one to allow women to join the military. He was the first one to make sure that women had scholarships to go and study abroad, so that the Yemen could give birth to engineers and doctors and all the rest of it. And he was, fighting for women to go to school. He was fighting for women to be given more freedom within, the structure of Islam. And he was actually fighting against cleric, which I suspect might have upset a few people back in Tehran, in that they realized that actually, even though they were Zaidi, they were not on the side of the mullahs whatsoever. And they didn't see Saudi Arabia as an enemy, religiously speaking, but rather in terms of disputed territories and the influence that Saudi Arabia wanted to have over Yemen. And of course, they were fighting radicalism by way of Al-Qaeda. And so the family of the president was not so kind when it came to radical Muslims. But that got lost in translation completely, because then rolled in the Arab Spring, and Tunisia set the world on fire, and it went suddenly to Egypt, and then it went on to Syria, and then of course Yemen. Only, I think it was about 2-3 weeks after, incidents happened in Tahrir Square in Egypt, that Yemen got set on fire. And then suddenly you started to see flags of, the Islamic Republic. Suddenly you started to hear people talk about using the same language that was being used in Tehran. And this is when my little antenna went up, and I was thinking, no, there's something that is terribly wrong. And by then, I was very much aware of the competition that existed between Turkey and the Islamic Republic as far as Yemen was concerned. Mm-hmm. Now, you need to understand that the reason is, like, Yemen is not a rich country, although it has natural resources. Yemen is absolutely center stage. If you want to control the Middle East and Arabia, you have to get control over Yemen, because it sits on Bab el-Mandab, which is the world oil route, and of course opens up Arabia to several continents, courtesy of the Red Sea. And so you have the Horn of Africa, you have Yemen opening up onto, the Arabian Peninsula, and of course the Levant, and then on the other side you have, Iran and Asia. And so they needed Yemen to get, or to become, I would say, the crown jewel of the Islamic Republic and the Shia Crescent. And so a battle started, and I could see it happening. And I decided, by 2011, 2012, that I had to do something, because, no one was reporting on it. No one understood. And the few people that I spoke with, trying to warn them, told me that I was a crazy person, and that I was saying, bad Iranian people everywhere. I was like, no, not Iranian people, RSGC. There's a difference. And also, my ex-husband's best friend, Hassan al-Ahmad, who has been rebranded as the Khomeini of Yemen by Saudi Arabia, who actually was arrested as he was crossing back from Iran onto Yemen via Oman, was one of the people who was instrumental in bringing the Islamic Republic and the RGC to Yemen. And so that's when I became very much aware.
What was his name? Hassan, what's his name?
Hassan al-Ahmad. If you type his name on Google and you put Khomeini of Yemen, you will see that there was, I think it was in Arab News, there was an article about him, and they talk about how he was arrested.
The insider look that you have from the point of view that almost nobody has, when you started, you got into, Arab Spring, and this, the elite, Washington elite behind that, and the colorful revolution. So let's go more into it. So, what do you see yourself, a journalist, or I don't know, I can say a Middle East specialist, a journalist, inside you, in your inner, what do you like to become?
I think I'm a strategist. Look, I have a master in finance, and so I understand numbers. I also understand patterns. I've read history extensively. Mm-hmm. I've lived in the Middle East. I studied the Middle East. I understand religious currents. I understand the religious demographic makeup of the Middle East. And also I have an insider's view of the Middle East, in that rather than a lot of people who have studied the Middle East, and bless their hearts, are doing a great job, they see the Middle East through a very Western lens. As I see the Middle East for what it is, because I live there. And I came to the Middle East. I mean, look, remember, I'm Jewish. And so I'm from the region. So I don't think that anyone has anything to teach me when it comes to the Middle East, because I'm from there. And so my appreciation and the way that I saw things move and evolved was very much from, I would say, an indigenous lens, in that I understand, because I am part of the fabric of that society. At the same time, I'm also a daughter of the French Republic, and I understand what it is that the West needs or has done to the Middle East. But I'm looking at it from a Middle Eastern perspective, in that I want what is best for the Middle East, because this is my home too, and I have every intention in getting all there. And so I want the region to do well. I want the region to be peaceful and stable and to prosper.
That's what I always think. You can't fix your country without fixing the region.
Exactly. And the difference in between me and other people is that a lot of the time, political analysts or strategists, whatever you want to call them, or journalists, look at the region and they don't actually care. I mean, they have this very Western, I would say almost post-colonial stand, where they feel sorry and they look at victims. And I'm like, I don't see victims. I see potential. I see people who have been wronged, people who have been convinced that somehow the world owes them a favor. No, the world doesn't owe you anything. But what you have to do is to stand up, stop crying over spilled milk. Yes, a great deal of harm was done to you, but it's going to be up to you to fix it. I mean, sitting on the side of the road and crying, waiting for the white man to come and save you, is not going to help you. And so buckle up and do what you do best, which is rebuild, and have pride in who you are and where you come from and your history. I also understand that history has a cycle, and that the West, unfortunately, is dying. And it's okay. If we are capable of rebuilding the Middle East and Asia, and say, now is our time to regain lost ground and to reclaim our space under the sun that was stolen away from us a long, long time ago. And the Islamic Republic has a lot to answer to in that regard. And so I see myself as a strategist. I also see myself as someone who's an analyst. I understand exactly what needs to happen. I'm going to be arrogant a little bit and say that maybe I know best when it comes to the West, because I was there and they were not. And I've seen things. And when people talk to me about Islamic radicalism, I'm like, yes, I've suffered from it. I was a victim of it. I've written the book when it comes to those things. Whereas people are saying, no, they are redeemable. No. An Islamist is not redeemable. An Islamist needs to be destroyed. I'm talking about the ideology, not the people.
Very good.
It is not something that you can reform. Let's be honest. It's a death cult. It has nothing to do with faith. Faith and religion are based on the sanctity of life. I don't believe that Islamists care about life too much. What they care about is to make the next generation of jihadists. What they care about is to make the next generation of martyrs. And what they care about is to bring death onto people who disagree with them.
Yeah, definitely. When as I'm listening and going through the speeches and interviews of His Royal Highness, he talks about the regime and his proxies. They want to just make a propaganda of murders. From other hand, we see in Gaza they are having suicide kindergarten. Suicide. They're teaching that Jews, what they see. So this is great. That how you see it. How easy it was to infiltrate the Islamic Republic.
I'm going to say, I know that when you listen to my story, people will be thinking, oh, she just walked in. I didn't. It took time. It took over 10 years. I mean, if you count 2011 up until, it was 2017 and 18 when I managed to do that. So yeah, it was the work of 10 years, because obviously I was in the Middle East before that, and I was working. I just didn't know. I was looking for the culprit. I didn't know who it was yet, because, I was looking at Al-Qaeda, I was looking at ISIS, I was looking at the great many things. And ISIS wasn't a thing yet, but you could see that there was the formation of something that was even more radical than Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. And so it took me about 10 years of work to get to the belly of the beast. And I think that people think it was easy just because I was clever enough, and I'm going to claim that, to set a trap and to make them come to me, as opposed to me forcing myself on them. Because the second you do this, you're done. The regime is extremely paranoid, and so you have to make sure that it is their idea. And it's not an easy thing to do, to make sure that it is their idea that they come to you. And I was clever enough to put crumbs out in the media to make sure that I would get picked up, and that I had the qualities that I knew they were looking for. And I'm not going to get into the details as to how exactly I did this, but it's not an easy thing to do, because think about it. This is not like, I'm not going fly fishing here. I'm going after the most dangerous and murderous regime that I would say the world has ever seen. I don't think that Nazi Germany holds a candle to what the Islamic Republic has done, because we're not talking about concentration camp, although we're talking about, the brutalization of women on an industrial scale. We're talking about the use of sexual violence to break into society, including little boys and girls. We're talking about the fact that men and women are being sexually abused and tortured for the sake of psychopathy and ideology that claims itself to own the rest of the world. We're talking about people who are quite happy developing a nuclear weapon to use it against innocent civilian population. We're talking about people who are willing to sell children to jihad just because they can. We're talking about people who in Yemen, for example, have abused and indoctrinated orphans. They actually created generations of orphans so that they could engineer the next generation of jihadists. And I'm going to repeat that, understand this. They have murdered entire villages in Yemen so that they could create orphans to engineer the next generation of jihadists. And they have done this in Iran. When they talk about, the temporary marriage, for example, in Iran, what they have done, the abuse that they have done of it, has been for the sole purpose of creating children outside, I would say, regular marriage, and to young women who are now then so desperate and who have been a lot of the time blackmailed that they have to abandon their children so that the regime could pick them up and raise them in the Hausa. Do you understand that those people are committing crimes against humanity? And the problem is because there's such a shame attached to it, but people are not responsible. The regime is, however, because they architected this horror that is now taking place in breaking homes and souls, because family have been completely exploded because of it, and women and men have been abused. People don't want to talk about it because they feel that the shame is onto them. It's not. Everything from cradle to grave has been orchestrated by the regime to lock people in a cycle of violence, silence, and shame. And they have replicated this in Lebanon, in Syria, in Iraq, and Yemen. Look at what's happening. Like, you hear stories in Syria where entire generations after generations have been brutalized, sexually and otherwise. Lebanon, same thing. Yemen, same thing. Do you honestly think, and Hamas, same thing in Gaza, do you seriously think that a woman, a mother, in her right mind, would stand in front of a camera and tell you that she's quite happy to sacrifice her sons and daughters to die by way of an explosion to serve God? How are you serving God? If you're so determined, to go kill somebody, why don't you go and volunteer yourself? Why do you have to volunteer your children? What they have done is use sexual violence to remap people's synapses in their brain, indoctrinate them to the point where they worship death.
Mm-hmm.
And they make a woman, a mother, be willing to sacrifice her child, which is completely unnatural.
That's what
rather than protect. Do you understand?
Wow.
Do you understand how you have to remap the human brain so that a mother will stop to want to protect her child, and her father would send their daughter to go to the mullahs and become a slave? Do you understand the kind of remapping that it takes? And that's what they've done. They have broken into society. Now, I'm going to give it to the Iranians that they have actually resisted the most brilliantly of all the societies in the Middle East and in Asia. They are the ones who have resisted the most. And you have been the most under attack because the center of gravity of the regime started in Iran. But if you look at Syria, this society is gone, exploded, and destroyed. Look at Iraq. Iraq it's on its knees. I mean, people don't even remember who they are. Fathers are not even protecting their children anymore because they don't understand what it means to be a man. A mother cannot protect her child because she's too busy wanting to breed the next round of jihadists. In Iran, it's very different. In Iran, you have mothers going out in the streets, defending their daughters and their sons and standing up because maybe the husband is not home. And they are still the pride of your society. And for this, I beg you, worship the feet of your women. They are absolutely incredible. I have never seen in my entire life, maybe save of Jewish women, women with so much courage. And I've said it many times, and people don't listen to me, but they really need to. Iranian women are the salt of the earth and the most incredible women with a courage, and it's not beauty, it's a grace that they have. There's a light about them where they actually understand and they remember exactly who they are, and they are willing to fight for the next generation, regardless of what it costs to them. And that, my friend, is courage.
Yeah, then we have seen it in the last 2 years, and men stood beside them. Wow.
Yes.
What you're telling, the information about Iraq, about what the regime does. I always talked about the depths of pedophilia and the human and child sex trafficking that the regime, because a month ago there some mullahs got out a paper to say we have to terror President Donald Trump. It's easy to shed his blood, but the first group, or the first people that replied to it was the Colombian cartel. The Colombian cartel, when they reply as the first, we are going into it, it means they have connections. And the Colombian cartel and the MS-13, they are the biggest human traffickers. It means there is a connection between that.
There's a connection. How do you think? I mean, look, there's a connection. People tend to look at things as if they completely divorce from one another. If you look, for example, at the trade of Captagon. So Captagon was, of course, engineered by the regime. Why? Because they wanted to make money. Hezbollah was only in Syria, was only too happy to oblige and to, become suddenly like the producer, the world producer of Captagon. Now, Captagon was again engineered to break into society and to make sure that an entire generation would be lost to drugs, but also because they wanted to use that as a mean. Once you break a society and an entire generation, the youth, is broken and addicted to something, you open the gateway to hell, and it means that suddenly those people will do anything and everything in order to get the drug, and so comes in prostitution and human trafficking. And this is something that they have done. Look, in Yemen, I've seen it. In Yemen, they were literally trying to convince young women to marry into the next round of RSGC. They were selling them. And stories were running that actually it was Saudi men coming down, marrying young and beautiful women in Yemen, and they were doing temporary marriages. They don't do temporary marriages in Sunni Islam. Saudis are Sunni. So I was just like, it's not the Saudis. Those are the men from the RSGC coming into Yemen, fooling those women, telling them that they're gonna give them a home, they're gonna give them a family, they're going to look after their family and give them the money that they need. And what they do is they trick them into a marriage, and then they get pregnant, and then they dump them. And so the girl has to dump the child into an orphanage. And I've seen this happen again and again and again. But the terrible thing is what they've done is they lied to the press and accused Saudi Arabia of doing those things. Saudis did not do this. Because usually speaking, Saudi, first of all, tend to marry each other and not so much outside, because it's just complicated if you want to have the papers, back in Saudi Arabia. And when they do get married, they do get married for real. So they were not the devil of the story, but the regime definitely was. And so many lies have been told. And the press, I'm afraid, can't tell the difference in between a Saudi man and an Iranian man, because as far as they're concerned, they speak a different language. Which, for me, it's such a silly thing to say, because if you can't understand the difference between Farsi and Arabic, you got a problem. If you can't understand that, temporary marriages doesn't exist in Sunni Islam, and therefore the Saudi cannot do it, they can't contract it, then you're an idiot. And you don't understand anything, about the region, you should get out of the way. But whenever I was talking about those things, people were telling me, oh, you don't understand, you silly woman. I'm like, okay, I understand more than you do, but whatever. But here we are. But those things will come out. And I think, look, I remember saying something. I was on the Winston Marshall show a few weeks ago, and a question was asked about Khamenei. I'm sure you heard about it.
Yeah, and of course, but we put it in our program. We just
I did. And he gave me his hand. I was thinking, I'm going to grab that one and I'm going to run with it. And the reason why I did it, it wasn't for petty revenge. Quite frankly, I don't care. But what I wanted to say is to give a voice to Iranian, because I've heard those stories so many times. I mean, there are stories about him in Mossad, and about his. There's also a story that is quite. I think Mujtaba doesn't want that story to come out, but there's a story about Mujtaba and a certain teacher of his, he was teaching him the Quran, and that teacher likes little boys, like the dad likes little boys, Mujtaba dad. And so, I said it because I wanted to free Iranians and tell the stories. Go say, because those things are trapping you.
Make an example, can we say, kind of?
Yes, because you are protecting people who have committed abominable crimes against humanity. People need to say, I'm not saying that they have to come out and say this happened to me, no, but free your voice. Tell those stories. You're not protecting anybody but them by,
more cultural too, If you go, you can, for example, being a lesbian or a gay, I'm putting a step behind.
Sure.
I'm putting, it's not, it's getting more and more compatible with the Iranian culture.
I mean, look, those things. Look, I personally, people can do whatever they want. I really don't care, as long as there's consent on both sides of the river. Not my problem. But it's something that needs to stay private, because it's not. This is not something that belongs to the public sphere, in my mind. Those are the things that people do if they want to. I don't think they need to be discussed at length. But when it comes to abuse and crimes, I want to free the victims and say there's no shame on you. Nothing. Look, no, you were the victim of a crime. You did not commit any crime. There is no shame attached to whatever it is that happened to you. And anyone who would hold it against you is an idiot. And they have no compassion whatsoever. And this is why I said those things. It's because I wanted Iranians to understand and be empowered and say, don't hide those criminals by thinking that by staying quiet, you are protecting your honor. Your honor remains untouched because those people have done those things to you. You did not invite them.
Definitely. I want to go more inside. If we think, the body of the Islamic Republic, what I was thinking and what I have as info, as an intel, almost, the top 20% of the regime, is that true? What do you think? What's your idea? They have they have all been they took part in a sex group, men with men sex group, and they have all part of the movie as kinda object hostage. Is that true? Can we say that? Go ahead.
I've heard about parties. There was a party I was invited to that apparently Mujtaba Khamenei was going to be at, and I was just like, no, thank you. It was in North Tehran. I have no idea. I never set foot there. I've seen pictures, of parties, and I've seen loads of alcohol and drugs. But again, I wasn't there, so I can't testify to it and say yes for sure. I've heard stories. I've heard people. But look, what I do know is that every single of those, regime high-ranking regime men are. I don't even know what the word would be, because it's not like they perverted. It's beyond that. It's that there is no rule for them. Look, you need to understand something. Those people imagine themselves to be gods. They believe, but think about it. They literally reinvented a religion and decided that, Khamenei speaks to God now. It was, I think, Ahmadinejad a few years ago. He was on CNN and he was saying that he has a conversation with Mahdi, and you're like, okay, great for you. He hears voices. The man hears voices and he thinks he's talking to God. It's for me insane that no one in Iran has sort of telling them, do you hear yourself for a second? But because everyone is so terrified of them, they have the power of life or death over millions of people, 80 million people. And so I think it got to their head. I also believe that when you are denying, again, the sanctity of life, your soul becomes so polluted, you can't see right from wrong anymore at all. And you become a devil. So you become, it's almost like a possession. And so they do all kinds of abomination. Remember, if you are a judge, like Raisi was, for example, Ibrahim Raisi. The man is responsible for countless deaths. He was a butcher of Tehran for a reason. Do you seriously expect that this man will be a loving father and husband? He cannot.
How they are in their family? That's always my question. How they treat their children, their wife. How they treat them?
Well, you need, again, I'm gonna tell you, Mujtaba Khamenei was taught Quran by a man who's a well-known pedophile. So how do they treat their children? They don't protect them, do they? Those people are monsters. don't expect, look, it's not because you're married to them or you're close to them or you're even their kids that they're going to protect you. Of course, you're going to have money and power, but understand that everything else in terms of protection, in terms of, you know, guidance, morality, you know, the protection that a mother and a father brings to their kids by teaching them right from wrong and stirring them and avoiding that harm comes their way, doesn't exist. Those people exist and create evil. Do you seriously think that their hands will buy anything else than that? Of course not. They stole Iran away from Iranians. They stole your voice. They locked you away. They committed the worst barbarities. Do you seriously think that you come untouched from that? That, you know, your behavior and everything that you are as a person will not become polluted and so tainted that there's no coming back from that? Of course not. They are paying the price. And I don't feel sorry for them because everything that's coming to them, they deserve. But those people, do not be fooled into thinking that they have good lives. No. They are violent, they are maniacal, they are oppressive and repressive, and they are so twisted that they do things that even you and I can't even comprehend or even imagine. How can you do such a... The thing that they do, quite frankly, some of it I don't want to know. Because it's just
exemplify some, tell us something, some that you haven't ever told to any media, or maybe.
No, I mean, look, the thing that shocked me the most was how they could willingly kill entire families, just so that they could get to their kids. I've seen it. I'm going to tell you a story.
Go ahead.
So Nader Talibzadeh's wife, Zainab.
I know him.
She was married.
Was he killed before going ahead?
I think he was. I mean, look, apparently he dropped dead after, he met, I think it was in the morning he met with Khamenei, and then in the afternoon he was called to the RGC headquarters in Tehran, and then he came out and he died.
Okay, go ahead.
In my mind, it was poisoned.
Okay, poisoned. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So Zainab told me, so before she was married to Nader, and by the way, she was a nice woman. She wasn't the devil at all.
You're talking about Zainab?
About Zainab Mehanna. She was actually a lovely woman. She was kind, and I think that she was trapped, if I'm completely honest with you. I think when she married Nader, she wanted protection from him, and she wanted to get her daughter back. So this is what happened to the poor woman. She was married, and she had a daughter with an Iranian man, and her daughter was stolen from her. Because when she got a divorce, the man said, "You're never going to see your daughter again." He wanted revenge. And then Zainab met Nader, married Nader. You would expect that a man like Nader, who can walk into Khamenei's office without an appointment, would get her daughter back by flicking his fingers. He didn't. He couldn't care less. He was just like, well, she's your daughter, not mine. Do you understand? This is the woman that you married. She's a mother. There's a daughter who has no access to her mother, not knowing who she is. And with all the power that you have acquired for yourself, you can't even be bothered to say that woman's child. Just to give you an understanding of like how kind they are. They're not. They don't care. The power is there to serve them. That's it. So if anyone wants to marry into the regime, I got news for you. It's not going to do anything for you.
So my next question has two parts. Who was the first easiest and who was the most difficult person to convince, or I'm going to say to seduce in a political way, to get the information from?
Okay, no, so not so much, but he hated me. Me. There was a guy, he's actually on a list. I can't remember his name now. Gargashi or something. He was a guy. He was a translator. He called himself an international polyglot, whatever that means. So I got to Tehran. It was 2017, right before the conference. And this man, we had a massive fight in the hotel lobby when I told him, if you get any closer to my face, I will drop you dead. Very violent. He was trying to say, he was going to hurt me. And I was just like, I think you got me confused with someone else. And the only reason he got upset with me is that he was claiming to speak fluent French. And I heard him speak French. And I was like, that's not French. And he was like, how would you know? I said, like, I speak the language. I was born in Paris. I mean, hello, I speak French fluently, you idiot. And this, I think Hamed Gargashi or something like that. And the guy was actually put on the list. May have been me.
Okay, I will check it out later.
It was put on the list. Yeah, and he was quite close to Nader, but he was more like the RSGC guy. Like he was a wannabe RSGC, so he was besieged, but he was desperately trying to get in. He hated my guts, hated me, and he kept going around saying, "Oh, you can't trust her, you can't trust her, you can't trust her." But Nader just ignored him because he saw that we had this big argument in the lobby of the hotel, to the point where some people from the RSGC had to stop him because he was making a show of himself in front of all the delegations of people, threatening me. And I was just like, I just got here. Like, can you just give me a second? But yeah, I stood up to him. And I think that brought me a lot of favors because people were thinking, okay, so she's not a pushover. And I was like, no, I'm not a pushover. And I hate it when men are violent towards women or trying to threaten me. I'm 5'3", okay? I'm not very big. But I'm something like 45 kilos. But don't threaten me. It's not because you're bigger than me and you could flick me across the room that I'm just going to cower to you. I'm a Jewish woman. Okay, do not tell me what to do. So he had a brush with what it feels like to speak badly to a Jewish woman. He had no idea who I was, although I think he suspected it, but he never said anything.
He was the easiest guy or the most difficult?
No, it was the hardest one. He hated me.
Who was the easiest one? As the top? Nader.
And I never understood it because it was his one of his right hand, Hamid, who came to get me in the lobby of the hotel and was telling me, "Oh, you need to meet with this man, Nader." I said, "Who is Nader?" He told me, "No, he's the one who got you invited. He knows you really well." I said, "I don't know the man." And I got to the table, so he was sitting. There was a coffee shop behind the lobby in the hotel, and then he was surrounded by a lot of people, and Zainab was there. And immediately, he welcomed me open arms and told me, "Please sit down, and I want to hear about you." And he knew everything about me already. He knew that my mom had died when I was 11. He knew, all the right buttons to push. Yeah. And then, he made me tell my story. I think he just wanted me to confirm what he knew. And I told him, my mom died, I married my husband, whatever. And, he knew about Yemen, and he was interested in the Yemen connection, which was why he got me. And I think that the reason why he was the easiest man to convince is that he needed me. And all he saw was a woman. And he saw a woman that had married.
Emotional need? You mean, what kind of need do you mean?
No, what I mean by that, they have this idea that women are easy to manipulate and easy to break because they are easy to figure out in terms of what is it that they want. They believe that a woman wants security from a man, that they want, to have a stable life, or that
kind
they
of
want
Shia
to
kind of
compliment it. Yeah. And so he had no understanding of what I wanted, which was revenge. And I wanted to destroy the regime. And so he saw in me an instrument that he could wield. And I saw in him a door opener onto Khamenei. And I was right. He's the one who made it happen.
Okay. Before going to there, you met with Ibrahim Raisi, you met with Khamenei.
Mm-hmm.
During those sessions, or other sessions of interviews or other meetings, have you ever thought you're gonna be somebody going to figure out and what will happen? Did you take it?
I didn't. I know it sounds crazy, but look, you have to understand.
You are brave, crazy.
No, it's not.
No, with those monsters, these are post-apocalyptic zombies.
I know, but look, I don't know if you know about the Torah, but look, I believe, and God has promised me protection, and so I believe, and that was it. And I the way I saw things, I had to do this. I was there. I think I was put in the way. Look, my Jewish name is Esther, and it may sound silly for a lot of people, but I really felt that there was a reason why I was called that, and I wanted to live to the full potential of my name and honor the people that came before me. And my grandfather fought against Nazi Germany. He fought evil, and he looked at it square in the face, and he didn't shy away, he didn't cower. And I was thinking, like, I'm his granddaughter, I'm not going to do that either. And so when I saw what was going to happen, I knew what was going to happen to my children if I just allow it. Because, one nation after the other, remember at the time, one nation after the other was falling to the Islamic Republic. I mean, it's easy for us to stand here today, 2025, and look back and say, well, Hezbollah has been destroyed, Hamas has almost been destroyed. Bashar al-Assad is, hiding in the Kremlin. Iraq is Iraq. The Houthis are done. It's easy for us to say that now, but it's very scary. Because you're thinking, back then, who knew what nation was going to fall to the Islamic Republic? And I didn't want Israel to be that. I didn't want the West to be that. And so I had to fight. And, for me, I knew that if no one was going to do what I wanted to do, maybe I'll wake up one day and Israel will be no more. I knew it wasn't going to happen like that because I know Israel will always be. But at the same time, Israel will always be because people are watching over Israel. And so I had to do my bit. I'm not, to do for nothing. It's not the case of I'm going to sit in the back of the room and wait for the big boys to do it. I wanted to play my part too. And when you see an evil, well, you speak against it. So I did. It's not bravery. It's just I'm a mother. What else am I going to do? Tell my kids that I'm sorry, but mommy didn't feel like it today. So you're going to have to do it when you grow up because I was a coward? No.
Wow, that's great. You didn't. When we look at these political specs, when not personal, because what's happening there can happen to me too. Because I always have this, sentence. I say that Israel is the last front line of the Western world in front of zombie apocalypse. I call it zombie apocalypse. It makes me to World War Z movie. Seriously, maybe you look at it from the other side. Let's go to the war. Because the topics that you have always talked about, everybody is curious about. You went there and here. Okay, how? Give me a percentage, or you want to go into it? In the first 12 days of war, I call it. I don't call it 12-day war. From the hits that Israel did at the first night.
Yes.
Give me a percentage. How much you were involved? How much was because of your attempt? Directly or indirectly, you know what I'm talking about.
Next question.
Okay, I got my point. So, as you know, one of them, Ali Shadmani, was the head of, a very big guy in IRCG, a big guy. I mean, not a good guy. He was being chased by Mossad, by some special forces in Tehran because his daughter comes and says, look, if you think my dad was bombed and when he was asleep like the others. No. She said that my dad was killed in the streets of Tehran in a chase. And he got even chador. Chador is the kind of hijab.
Yeah, no, because they made me wear it. Trust me, I know what it is.
So definitely, you know what I'm talking about. So why I'm telling this, the presence of the special forces, kind of White Hats, special forces, Delta forces, the Marine Corps in Iran, is showing us, based on the first 12 days of war and based on what you see from your point of view, what will go on. How long would be the next level, or can I say next wave of war, and what's going to happen? What do you think?
That's a good question. So first of all, if I was the regime, I will really not push Israel's button. I mean, don't. I mean, if you want to breathe a bit longer, just don't provoke Israel. I think that during the 12 days war, Israel has proven beyond the shadow of a doubt, of any doubt, that not only it can, but it will. And they don't even know the half of it. This is the beauty about Mossad. Look, Mossad is one of the greatest intelligence agency in the world. I mean, Mossad managed to build a drone base a few kilometers away from the capital, and they did not know. I mean, how can you not know? They did. So can you imagine that not only some guy one day decided to stand up at a Mossad meeting and say, hey guys, let's talk about the beepers, yes? And someone thought that it was a great idea to sign off on it. So not only did someone imagine it, but somebody sign off on it, okay? And say like, let's go do that. And they did. But someone else decided to say, hey, so the IRGC hates us, the most dangerous regime on the face of the planet. What are we going to do? We're going to infiltrate the crap out of it. And they did. And they did. Somebody signed off on it.
And you did.
So whatever you think that I did, I mean, look, next to what my hats,
it was a great
socks.
Your name is not coming up easy. Look. After the first 12 days war, your name comes again in a wave. Not because of nothing, because you have done a lot. Look, there's something into it because now it's very great. So go ahead. Because
but look, Mossad,
they did a mistake. But is Mossad going to finish the job next time?
Well, look, this is the thing. We talk about finishing the job. What job? Because if you look, Mossad's job is to protect Israel and to do what's right for Israel. I mean, we need to reframe things as they are. Mossad is not there to serve anybody but the Jewish people and Israelis. And it may sound harsh, but that's the reality. Just like Reza Shah, the crown prince and soon to be Shah's job will be to represent the interests of Iranian people. Of course, he's going to make sure, like any good leader, that what is good for Iran will be also good for the neighbors, but to an extent, because of course he represents the Iranian people and Iranians' interests, correct? So I don't want people to imagine that Mossad will do, some great.
That's why I asked you this, because a lot of people that they are not into politics, they are waiting that Mossad to finish the job.
No.
Last night,
Mossad will not take out. I mean, this is my read on things, okay? Don't take my word for it. Will not take out the regime for the sake of the Iranian people, even though it might want to do that because we want to save you. But also, we have so much respect for you that we understand that you need to save you, because you don't want to turn around and one day have someone to say, hey, remember what we did?
They liberated you.
No, but seriously, because if you look, for example, at the way that the Americans are dangling the carrot to the French and say, we saved you during World War II. Okay, we know. But, the French resistance was there too. I mean, let's not get it twisted. But yes, America did what the French could not do. That is very true, to come and help us to defeat Nazi Germany. Now, I believe that the Iranian people are perfectly capable of freeing themselves from the Iranian regime, from this abomination, okay? You don't need help. What we did is because we needed to save ourselves and we needed
you crumbled the regime to show the people this is not the regime that we cannot take down. You helped us a lot. Israel has.
No, we did. We did because also we wanted to. I mean, look, you need help. You cannot do it on your own. Like we did not go home. No, listen. When we went back to Jerusalem to build the temple, Cyrus the Great let us go. So it's not like we had help. But he did not come and say, "Let me give you my architect and let's build it for you." He didn't do that, did he? He told us, "You go. I'm going to give you the resources that you need, okay, to do so." So I think this is what Israel is doing for the Iranians, is that to give you the resources and the ability to do what needs to be done for yourself. And I think this is how a friend conducts itself with a friend, is that I'm empowering you. I'm not doing things for you because one day maybe my grandkids will be stupid enough to say, oh, we did that for you. No, you did this for yourself because you have the courage and the bravery to do so. And the regime needs to be destroyed by its own people, because I want Iranians to look in the face of those devils and say, we strike you down. Now you stand still. But I tell you what my dream is. I would love nothing more than for Khamenei to be grabbed, okay, by the collar of his little galabia, and to go to Jerusalem and stand trial and be put to death.
In Jerusalem?
That I would like. Yeah.
In Jerusalem?
Crime against humanity. In crimes against humanity, he's responsible for the death of so many of my people. I want him dead.
Wow. So
justice. I don't want him dead just because I want him to be killed. No, I want justice.
Okay.
So he needs to be tried and he needs to be sentenced to whatever according to the rule of law in Israel. I would love to do that. But you guys you can have a go first if you want to, because it is, he has hurt your people more than he has hurt my people. Although I think that we may disagree on this, because I think it's kind of the same.
What was the last thing a regime official told you before you cut the ties?
What is it? They were desperate for the youth in the West to understand. It was run around the time when Khamenei was writing those letters to the youth. Do you remember that?
Yes.
The Western youth.
Yes.
And
it was Obama time, I guess.
Mm-hmm. they were desperate. They wanted to break into universities in a way that hadn't been done yet. They wanted to rally them up, and they were preparing the ground for October 7th. But at the time, I didn't know. I didn't realize what it was, because they told me that, you know, they had mapped out the Jewish diaspora, and that they were planning a singular event that was going to change the face of the Middle East and strike Israel. I just didn't know what it was. And I thought foolishly that it was going to be an attack on the diaspora. I didn't realize it was going to be in Israel. But I knew they were planning this whole, you know, anti-Semitic, anti-Zionist narrative that they have rolled out. I knew that, but no one believed me. This is the problem with people like me, is that we say things, and I mean, granted, I had no proof other than, you know, all the pictures and all the things that I have done. And by then the regime, you know, was like screaming from the rooftop that I was this and I was that and I was the devil. So people knew that everything I was, you know, as at least as far as infiltrating the regime, what I was saying was true. They just did not believe my information, because for them it was so insane that they were like, it's not possible. The regime would never do that. And then October 7th happened, and then they changed their mind. And they realized that, hang on a second. And I told them, I said, look, everything that I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you an order of things, and it's going to happen exactly like I'm telling you it's going to happen. You think I'm mad now? Just wait a few months and you're going to see. And the problem is, I was right, and I didn't want to be, and I knew I was going to be. And I told them, you're only going to believe me when blood is going to be spilled. And that's the tragedy. So I'm hoping that now people will listen to me, because, I mean, I still have things to say. I mean, I'm not going to break grounds, because, I mean, most of it has already happened. But there is more to come. You know, an attack will come on the West that, of the likes of October 7th. They're not done. They're not done at all. And I'm worried, because the other fear that I have is that, you know, as well as I do, when Khomeini came, he didn't care about Iran. He's not even Iranian. All he cared about was to create, like, you know, ground zero for his little experiment. But he made sure that if Iran was to fail, as in if Iranian were to rebel against his authority, that he would be able to recreate an Islamic Republic somewhere else. And I'm afraid that this was somewhere else is going to be somewhere in the West. That's my fear. Wow. And so if people are listening, be careful. Be very careful.
As we saw what happened in Syria, do you have any intel about, is there any secret prisons in Islamic Republic, in Iran, that Islamic Republic is holding people on some activists, political activists, or whomever? Do you have any information that nobody has?
There's two places, okay? Under Mossad, there's a series of tunnels, and I've been told that some people have been held there. I don't know. Okay. And also I have been told that under the compound of Khamenei, some people have been held there. Do you know the compound?
Still,
where, you know,
still they're holding people.
I don't know about now, but because, you know, when so they took me to Evin prison, and they showed me, and they say, oh, you know, this is where blah blah blah, and they were talking about the Shah and how it was terrible with the, you know, the political prisoners, whatever, and, you know, they have this kind of weird museum. So they took me there to try to impress on me that the Shah was a terrible man, when really, like, you know, I think they get it slightly twisted. It's actually them. But someone told me, so there was one of the lady, the guide, she was telling me that actually she told me like, don't listen to them when they tell you about Evin prison. She told me the real prisons are under the compound of Khamenei and in Mossad, because Mossad was very much run by Qasem Soleimani. If you recall, he was one of the custodian of something. Of course. And so they had a whole system of people that were held on the ground.
What you know about Qasem Soleimani's daughters, about sex trafficking and what? Do you have any info?
She's married to Hezbollah guy.
Yeah, of course, yeah. She's
She's great friend with Zainab Mornier, just to tell you.
So
and her husband, if I'm not mistaken, is the king of Captagon in Lebanon.
Captagon, I remember in Syria, they've you know, when they were confiscating what has left from the brothers.
It's Hezbollah. Look, it's Bashar al-Assad's brother.
Bashar al-Assad's brother.
He's the one who's running it. And in Lebanon, it was so you had Zainab Mornier and Zainab Soleimani's husband. You know, we're doing a lot of the things. And Zainab Soleimani was a woman that was in charge of recruiting young, beautiful Iranian women to sell them out.
That's what I'm asking. Go ahead. Do you have more info?
No, but they're doing this. They're doing this. Look, do you know when? Okay, so do you remember I've met her? It was in Karbala, 2000 and what was it? 18, I think it was. Yes, I think it was 18. So it was during like the whole Arbain thing. The reason why those two women go year after year to Arbain is to recruit, because you have a lot of young Shia women who travel for the pilgrimage, and so they go there to scout, and they go you. Yeah.
So
so do you know when people are standing, for example, in the UK, you have those ziyarat, I think they call them,
ziyarat,
where you have young men and women, leaving, and so a lot of the time they're under the the patronage of a sayyid or somebody, like an imam or whatever. And so the parents are quite happy to let their daughter or their son go. And say, don't, because what are they doing? The reason why they want young people to go to Iraq and to be far, far away from their home is that things happen when they're there. And they are being recruited by the likes of Mournier and Soleimani. But those things are not being talked about. And here's the thing. I haven't seen it myself, okay? So I can't attest to it and say, yes, it's absolutely true. But I've heard so many stories, and I've seen, why are you there all the time? And, they were always surrounded by young women. They were always surrounded also by young women journalists for some reason, because they wanted access. I don't know what they were doing. But that's what they were doing. And that was never too much, too far away from it. So.
Okay. I'm going to ask you two more questions. First of them is about our king, about our Shah. Lately, yes. I've seen your interviews talking about the government in exile. There are more aspects to that, and you talked about Jerusalem and stating a government exile. And at first, when you mentioned that, when you uttered that, almost a lot of people got shocked. This is happening. This is so. Apart from the theoretical and the political and diplomatic aspects of it, so please let us know more about it. What's going on? Because what you said, it was something that almost I forgot. Yeah, we got a piece of land in Jerusalem.
You do. It's in Tel Aviv.
I didn't know that, seriously. So go ahead. Please give us a review to that.
Yeah. So a few years ago, I was thinking about, what can we do to make sure that Iran is preserved and we can reintroduce the monarchy? Because look, I came to realize that, and it may not be the right model for everybody, but I think that in the region, monarchies have fared really, really well when it comes to opposing Islamic radicalism, because a king does not think like a president does, in that a king would never sell his country out, because that is his country, his land. He has no reason to fragment his kingdom, because it is his kingdom. And they think in terms, the monarchy thinks in terms of longevity. So we're talking 500 years ahead, as opposed to a political cycle in a republic. And so I came to realize actually monarchies, again, are a good idea in the Middle East, at least there. And
for Israel too, what do you think? Sorry, maybe I'm asking so radical questions. What about Israel? I think Israel can be monarchy too.
Well,
I got you into that question. Go ahead.
No, look,
that would be fine. That would be great.
Yeah, waiting.
The second temple, third temple.
But, look, third temple, la 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 la.
Yeah, great, I got it. Okay, go ahead.
But anyway, so yes, King David. So yes, and so I was trying to figure out, what can we do to prevent, a power vacuum, because that's the most interesting that you could do, because you don't want Iran to go the way of Afghanistan, for example. And Afghanistan had a monarchy before, but then it became a shit show. Excuse my French, but it did, because they turned it into this weird republic. They should have brought back the monarchy. But anyway.
And it was because of Islamic Republic too. Zarif has told that we told the Americans, please don't bring back the monarchy. They brought Louis Jorge, and that got a catastrophe. Look what happens in Afghanistan. Go ahead.
Yes, because look what happens when there's a monarchy, Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, is holding the fort, and he's defending Saudi Arabia, and he's doing a great job. This man's going to be a great king. Look at Morocco, even Jordan, and I have many things to say about Jordan, but it's still standing. Okay, but I don't want to talk about Jordan.
Yeah,
anyway, but Bahrain's is fairly well. Kuwait is a great example of how a monarchy works and serves people well.
Because they're
there's a social
separating.
contract.
I think they're separating the royal family from politics. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Then,
Yes, but also there's a parliament, and so there's a representative system where people are not completely devoid of a voice, but it's measured. It's
Definitely.
measured. But anyway, so, and I was saying, how do we do this? And then I came to realize that actually, hang on a second, the Islamic Revolution was never a revolution. It was really a takeover and a hijacking of Iran. You're under occupation. So, if you take the view that Iran is under occupation by this abomination, that is the Islamic Republic, then the constitution that they decided to bring up by way of a referendum has no value whatsoever. Now, how do we go about proving it and restoring the 1906 constitution? Because in that case, you need to go back to something, right? Before you can move forward, you need to go back to a time where legitimacy was real. And then I realized that the referendum was done under engineered consent, in that they lied.
32 million people voted, while just 16 people could.
Thank you.
16 million people could, but 32 million people, something like that. It's very crazy.
Thank you. And I mean, it's insane. So it's not real. It wasn't a referendum. They lied. Iran was stolen away from the Iranians, and they were stolen away from the Shah. That was betrayed by the West, by the way. But anyway,
Definitely.
we're not going to get into it today. Maybe some other time.
Yeah, that's.
And so in my mind, the only thing that you could do was to go back to 1906 to reaffirm the authority of the crown, and then allow for the crown prince, now turned Shah, to modify the constitution so that it would reflect the society of today. But only he has the authority to do that. And here's the beautiful thing, and this is where I think that the Shah, the late Shah, was a man of great foresight, is that I think he saw everything coming, and he planned for every eventuality, which is what a king does and a president doesn't, okay? Because he loved these people so much that first of all he decided to leave to prevent a genocide, hoping that the West would come to his aid, and they didn't. But he had made provision. He made his Queen Farah, regent, in that he understood that his kids were too young to be given the responsibility of ruling and knowing what to do, because they were too young to understand. Again, you need to become a father, and you need to be a bit older to understand the weight of a crown. And so he entrusted the future of Iran to who else but his wife, the woman who had shared his life with him, and who had built an empire with him, who had embodied what change was going to be in Iran and what it means to be a woman in Iran. And so it is up to her now to make her son a Shah, and to do that, she only can do it from the seat of government. Now, the seat of government is under occupation by the Islamic Republic. Now, a land was bought again by the late Shah, because I think he saw it coming. And this is the only piece of land that belongs to a free Iran, that belongs to the crown and only to the crown.
We got it in Washington too. We got the Iranian embassy in Washington.
The Iranian embassy has been hijacked by the regime, and so you would enter. There would be a confrontation, in that you would be arguing with them who has ownership. The land in Tel Aviv belongs to the crown and only to the crown. I would defy the Islamic
almost it's already protected. We can say that it's already protected. That's that piece of land.
Because I mean, the government of Israel knows exactly that this land belongs to the crown, and so is there waiting for its queen. So if she was to declare a government in exile from that land that is sovereign to Iran, even though it is in Israel, it is sovereign to Iran, then the Shah could be crown Shah, the crown prince.
But crown prince sworn an oath 1980.
But he's still called the crown prince for a reason, because he's not Shah yet. The constitution is to be respected in its minute details.
But yeah, he hasn't sworn an oath in parliament.
But because he can't. But if you recall a government in exile from the land that belongs to the crown, that becomes then the seat of parliament and government under the authority of the Queen Regent, then now you can. There you go.
Yeah. It
is a solution. Look, I'm not saying it's the best, but it is a solution, and I'm saying that it is one that would give back Iran to its people, that would give you back your Shah, that would turn a prince into the righteous inheritor of his father's throne, Reza Shah, And also would put the rest of the world in a bit of a pickle, in that they would have to make a decision. Who do you back? Who do you back? Do you back the Shah, or do you back the mullahs? You're going to have to make a choice. And I want them to make that choice. I want them to say to the rest of the world, this is who we are. We betrayed your father. Are we going to betray you now? I hope that the answer is no. They're not going to betray. They're going to stand with them.
I think, from the office of His Royal Highness, of course, when we have more sharp words, you know what I mean? Because the West that we are facing, they almost nobody invests except Israel. 90% of this country, they are with the regime. They just shoved Khomeini inside Iran. Now they are backing
the French.
Yeah, they backing the German and the Germans. Yep. I never forget in the streets of Germany that they changed the name to Mahsa Amini. They are making and producing tear gases and Winchester bullets, sending to Iran to eliminate the Iranian kids. And this is what we are seeing, that Western countries, almost we had, except Israel. That's why when I see Bibi Netanyahu in 90% of his interviews, he talks about the Iranian people. Like last night, in Fox News, he was asked about the Abraham Accords. Then he said, except Iran. The guy asked, except Iran, which country is going to join? Then Bibi Netanyahu replies, no, why not Iran? When the people of Iran, they raise up and they take the country back, they can join too. The way he's thinking to us, the way he's always been with us, that's very great. I don't know what you think about him and which political party you're in, but I think in these moments it's important that how Israel is important. So inside this, I wanted to be that repeated in our program too. There are so many things that we can talk about, except that beside that 1918 oath that His Royal Highness swore an oath. When got the point? This is the question. Inside the regime, because there is of course a kind of contradiction. How can I say? When we see the monarchy from this side, the time that you were inside the regime and with these top level people, which one of them believed in Islamic Republic and which one of them didn't? And they said, we are just showing off. You know what I mean? Please name us some names, please.
Nadal believed for sure. He was sold to the whole Khomeini thing. Raisi could not care less. All he wanted was power. He wanted to be the great leader.
Were they talking about Pahlavi, the fear of Pahlavi they had to you? Have you heard? What was the story on it?
No, not really. They didn't really talk about the. I mean, they had this thing about where they had to portray the Shah as this evil doer, and that he was such an evil man that they had to save the world from him. But it's they didn't talk too much about him. Is that even his name? They didn't want to say. Whenever they were talking about him, they were kind of whispering, and I was thinking, are you scared of the guy? They didn't want to talk about it. Not really. Wow. Like they don't like to talk about Bibi. And I always said, because I've been asked many times by many people, who is the one leader in Israel that the regime is scared about? And every time I said Bibi. Even when he wasn't prime minister, it's always been Bibi, which is why I think Bibi needed to be the one. And I'm glad that he did. And I'm going to say it again. Thank you. I've said Toda, thank you, Shukran, every language to Bibi. I think he saved us. He really did. And by us, I mean Israel and the Jews. If it wasn't for him.
We call him King Bibi, a lot of people call him King Bibi.
Bibi is Bibi. I mean, it's like, they call him King Bibi now.
No, I don't call him King Bibi. I haven't heard because of what he's done, because of the faith he has inside the Israel, for the Israeli people, for Israel, acting like a king, putting his life in danger. You know what I mean?
That's what I mean. This is what it takes to lead. This is why I have every respect for this man.
Definitely.
And I don't care. Look, people can say whatever they want. I really don't care. As far as I'm concerned, Benjamin Netanyahu is the Benjamin. I don't know if you know, but the first kings of Israel came from the tribe of Benjamin. It was King Saul, and they were the warriors of the tribes of Israel. And then he moved on to Judah and the house of David.
Wow.
Bibi is the man that we needed. As far as I'm concerned, he's like King Saul. Now, next we're going to have King David. The lines are going to come back. But what he's done is nothing less of biblical. Are you serious? I mean, he slayed. He slayed, and I love him for it. And I think that people need to stop, and they hold him accountable for whatever. It doesn't matter, even if he did whatever it is that you think he did. I don't care. I don't care. What he's done for Israel and the Jewish people will be inscribed in history. Say thank you to the man. Say
Definitely.
thank you. I love him.
He always supports Iranian people. He always said, "Come on, raise up."
I even if he makes me very unpopular, I will love Bibi and say thank you until my dying breath. What this man has done for Israel, I will never forget. Never, ever, ever, ever. He was the one who stood to Hezbollah. He was the one who stood to Hamas. He was the one who stood to the Houthis. He was the one who stood to Trump and Biden and said, this is what is going to happen, okay? And yes, Trump is our friend, but because Bibi sold it, okay? He's the one who told Khamenei, I'm coming to get you. He's the one who gave Mossad authorization to do whatever they did. This man, he can walk on my head any day.
Haramian Houthis, Shabi, Hezbollah, Jihad Islami, and 20 civil sub-jabhas, where they are. What Bibi did, nobody can do, and we have a lot of respect.
I mean,
a lot of respect.
Look, what he's done to Hezbollah. I mean, what he's done with Sinwar and Nasrallah. Come on, give the man.
Fuad Shukr. I don't know. The names, the list is so long, and this is so crazy. Look, I'm thinking, what has happened now, and based on what happened, we have gathered the information of depth of this hell around Israel. Depth of this, the army of zombies that have always taken down the Iranian people and their expression. Yeah, of course, I call them the armies of zombies. They are zombies, nothing else. But great. That's why he's telling we are changing the face of Middle East.
I know. Do you know there was who was it?
That's not just a word. That's not just some words.
A few months ago, the head of Mossad was saying like, you got stuff coming. You're not going to understand what's happening to you. And I'm just like, yay! But it was made possible because of Bibi. Honestly, and look, Mossad for sure. The head of Mossad is incredible, but Bibi. I want people to understand that, look, it's not easy to be a prime minister. It's not easy to be a prime minister in Israel because whenever you put two Jews in a room, we have about 10 opinions, okay? We are terrible people. And we argue about everything all the time. And for him to have done what he's done, given the circumstances, and we have the hostages, and we have the families of the hostages, and we have people mad because of this and mad because of that. Do you know how difficult it must have been for him to maneuver this? And yet he brought us victory. The man is a legend. I mean, he's like, look.
The man is a legend, of course.
Bibi, I mean, come on, leave him alone. It's more like he's the man.
I love him. This man,
I'm gonna buy
Bibi.
The t-shirts.
And Iranian people, they love Bibi. So let's talk about, as the last point, you wanted. Okay.
If he listens, Bibi, I love you. I've loved you since I'm a child because when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, people were campaigning for him. I was right there and I was just like, Bibi, okay? I haven't changed. I've been Bibi all the way since ever. Now, can you please sign me a picture, an autograph or something? I love this man so much. I want to meet him one day and I'm going to give him a hug. Sarah will forgive me. But I think he's a wonderful man. I love what he's done for my people. I love him to death. And I wish him well. And we need him for one more. One more. We need him to stay. We need him to stay for one more. After he can go and retire, it's okay. We can let him go. But we need him still. He's not done. Bibi, you haven't finished the job. Not. Stay. Don't go.
I appreciate on behalf of the Iranian people. I'm appreciating what Israel and Bibi and the IDF has done as help, and of course you. So at the last point, remember 2 minutes before we start, you talked about
and then I'm going to have to go. I'm so sorry. But
no, about you have about the products and things. We said we talk about that.
Oh yes. So with a friend, we actually entered a collaboration with some artists, Jewish artists, and we are working on a range of T-shirts and merchandise. Celebrating the friendship between Iranians and Israelis and Jews, but also against the regime. So we have a few that I think will make people laugh, and I'm pretty sure it's going to anger the regime terribly. But the idea behind it is that we wanted to support basically, research and advocacy work on behalf of Israelis and Iranians, and to make sure that the regime is gone, faster rather than later, and I mean early rather than later. So I will send you some of our design. I will send you all the links and everything. And look, if people can't, because if they don't want to buy it, it's fine. But on social media, please at least retweet it. Just make it go viral because it's helping. and it's for a good cause. And we have something about goat lives matter. If you know what I mean. We want to save the goats in the Middle East that are being, abused by Hamas and others.
Okay,
and
okay,
so
I got it.
It's gonna be. It's dark humor, but we really want to save the goats, and we want to save people from Khamenei. So you're gonna love our design.
Of course.
Hate me,
then send me the link. Send me the link. We are doing our best. We are doing our best. Thank you. We appreciate. Thank you for being our guest here. Let's see.
Anytime. Invite me again.
Of course, I'll do that. That would be my honor. Because this is the warm up. This was the warm up to know you more, to know more
I cannot
things.
bring my tiara next time because I'm, Queen Esther.
Of course, why not? You are the why not? What you are doing is not
name
listen.
is Esther, and so my daughter was saying, "Mom, you need to get a tiara and walk around with it." So I was thinking, the next time I do a podcast, I will come up with my Queen Esther T-shirt and the tiara.
Wow, that would be great. Then God bless you. God bless Israel. God bless Bibi. God bless our common victory.
Bless you.
Thank you very much.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Yeah, shalom.
Bye.
Have a nice time. Thanks.
You too. Bye bye.
دوستان درود بر شما. مجددا مصاحبه بسیار جالب و شنیدنی بود به نظر من. دیدید که چقدر ایشون پر انرژی بود. بچه‌ها پرسیده بودن تو برنامه چرا فارسی حرف نمیزنه، بلبلی حرف نمیزنه، ولی سری بعد حتما از ایشون خواهیم خواست فارسی صحبت کنن. مصاحبه خیلی خوبی بود. من خودم دوباره باید ببینم چون نکات جالبی داشت به نظرم. از نوش 411 سپاسگزارم و لیلا غلامی بابت همیاری که در طول برنامه داشتن. اگه بچه دیگه هم بودن ما ندیدیم دیگه ببخشید. به نظرم یکی از بازترین و یکی از پادشاه اسرائیل گفتیم یکی از بی پرده ترین، یعنی بدون سانسور، تا هیچ هم هماهنگی نشده بود و فلان، هیچی، کاملا حرفه‌ای. و اینو ما اومدیم چی بکنیم، برعکس شد. این سوری 013 رو بلاک کنید. بعد جانم برات بگه که نکنید، ولش کنید، ننویسید همینجوری بچه‌ها پیام. عرضم بزرگتون که امیدوارم خوب باشید. شما رو به خدا ایران میسپارم. مسابقه خیلی خوبی بود. دوباره برید ببینید، برای دوستاتون بفرستید. حداقل از این من معمولا نه تا حالا گفتیم ما رو فالو کنید، نه گفتیم سابسکرایب کنید. فکر کنم کلا 10 دفعه گفتم ما رو لایک کنید توی این 5 سال. بعضی برنامه حالا نمیدونم چه جوری، هر چقدر دوست دارید، هر چیزی دوست دارید حمایت بکنید. ما دوستانی که میگن چرا فارسی، ما فقط بیننده هامون ایرانی نیستن. این زیرنویس هم دستی انجام شده با هوش مصنوعی و دستی و تصحیح و فلان، خیلی سخت بود. ولی خب ما گفتیم الان دوباره دارم میگم چرا ما اکنون اینو بیرون دادیم مهمه. چرا در این زمان، چرا این مطالب گفته شد. نظرهای ایشون مثلا در مورد مثلا پادشاهی، اینا نظر ایشونه دیگه. خب به هر حال ما دوستدار کینگ بیبی هستیم، دوستدار رضا شاه دوم، شاه ایران. تنها دلیل نجات جهان ایشان است. یادم نمیره وقتی که توی سمینار اسرائیلیا آقای اسمش یادم میشه میگفت که اگه اکنون اعلی حضرت در ایران در مسند بودند در جهان دیگری زندگی میکردیم. اوکی، شما رو به خدا ایران میسپارم. دمتون گرم و پاینده باد. بعد ما گفتیم یه اتم بزنیم دیگه، اینجوری دیدی اتم یه موجی داره. اینو باید دقیق ببینید. نکات خیلی خوب مهمی داشت در مورد قاچاق‌هایی که انجام میدن. میگفت مثلا گفتن همسر زینب سلیمانی پدرخوانده کپتاگونه. من نمیدونستم. خیلی نکات جالبی بود. بیشترم خواهد بود. و پراجکت لون در خدمت شماست. پاینده باد ایران، پاینده باد ایران شاهنشاهی. سپاس از شهرام تهرانی و دوستان دیگه. هر جسید شاد باشید. شما رو به خدا ایران میسپارم. همه بچه‌ام که اینجا بودن، دم شما هم گرم که حمایت میکنید، پشت این برنامه هستین. چون به هر حال مثلا یک طرف مهمون میاد، خب وقتی به طور مثال من مهمون جایی هم نگاه میکنم ببینم مثلا میزبان من چقدر ازش حالا اون دوستانش اونجا حمایت میکنن و اینها. واقعا یه کارپت بامب بود. این خیلی نکات مهمی داشت، نکاتی که ایشون گفتن. منم سعی کردم زیاد دور اول، حالا حداقل در مصاحبه اول، اون مصاحبه طوری نباشه که ایشون فکر کنه مثلا من دارم سوء استفاده میکنم از شرایط. طبعا هم این گونه نیست. دیدید که ایشون گفت که دعوتی که من ازشون کردم یکی از قشنگترین دعوت‌ها بود. یعنی من واقعا با رعایت خیلی خیلی سیاسی و خیلی درست از ایشون دعوت کردم و امیدوارم که ارجحاً ملت اسرائیل به زودی آزادی و رهایی ایران و اسرائیل رو با هم ببینیم. زیرا جهان خاورمیانه بدون صلح نمیتونه ایران همیشه در صلح نگه داره. بعد صلح باشه همه جا و این پیش بریم. حالا همین الان هم ممکنه چیز عجیبی در اتفاق افتاده باشه من از شما سپاسگزارم که این برنامه رو دیدید. به هر حال ساختن این برنامه‌ها، اول از تیم پراجکت رون سپاسگزارم، بازم از آرتین که به هر حال تو بخش از زیرنویسا خیلی کمک کرد، از ایشون هم سپاسگزارم. و پاینده باد. دیدید که دقت کنید کدوم ایرانی، ما وقتی میریم میگیم کینگ بیبی، ما در این مصاحبه خانم کاترین شکدم رو برای اولین بار پادشاهی خواه میبینیم. در مصاحبه قبل با مارشال برگشت گفت حتی برای من مهم نیست چه اتفاقی بیفته، حالا هر کی مردم میخوان. ایشون با شاه شروع کرد، منم ازش نخواستم که اصلا بگو شاه، نه، ولی در این مصاحبه شون داره پادشاهی خواه. من بابا مگه میشه شما برای اولین بار در یک رسانه ما از پادشاهی اسرائیل صحبت کنید؟ میگیری چی میگم؟ پاینده باد. به خاطری نمیگم برید نکات ریز برنامه رو ببینید. پاینده باد ایران، پاینده باد ایران شاهنشاهی. به زودی دور دوم، دور نهایی حملات آغاز خواهد شد. بدرود.